Namaste, Jai Hind, you're on CNN News 18, I'm Anand Narsimhan, and it is the big day, ladies and gentlemen, the rise of Bharat. It is Bharat's moment under the sun, and the world is descending into the national capital for the big summit, the G20 Leadership Summit, right behind me at that plenary hall, the Bharat Mandapam. Well, I must say, ladies and gentlemen, the mood of the pep of the music is the mood on ground, because that's the feeling one got as we walked into this fantastic international media center and said, this is world class. Zaka Jacob, our managing editor, a good friend, is also with us. And Zaka, you are at the lower level. How is the experience? Isn't this wow?
Oh, it really is. There is a lot of razzle-dazzle. The fact that, we could have this kind of a venue as we are overlooking this beautiful Bharat Mandapam, where the heads of state and heads of government of the 20 most powerful countries and institutions will be joining us. A slightly overcast day here in Delhi. There were overnight rains through much of the national capital region, but I dare say that the mood is upbeat. It's far from being overcast in any form. Clearly, negotiators are, working overtime to get cross the T's and dot the I's, because clearly all eyes will be on that joint statement. The important thing and the good news is all 19 countries and the European Union are being represented at the Delhi G20 Summit. All of them are being represented, whether it's at the level of Prime Minister or the level of President, head of state or head of government, but all of them are being represented, and there seems to be just a glimmer of hope, at least for some of the outstanding issues like climate change, financial sustainability, debt relief, and of course some of the newer issues, the voice of the global south, which India is hoping to be, of course adding the African Union as a permanent member to the G20. All of these will be very, very significant developments as we traverse through these 2 days. But I think the critical thing will be on whether there will be a joint statement. Anand.
Yes, Aka, and quickly we might have Paul Fletcher, the Shadow Minister of Australia, member of Bradfield, joining us. But before we go across to him, quick word with you. The tone that's been set post the bilaterals yesterday, especially with President Joe Biden, and with the announcement that Mohammed bin Salman is arriving with a full delegation for that state visit. So 9th onwards until the 11th, he's going to stay on here. Does that actually set the tone for consensus to be chosen above conflict? And would you also want to also peg on what Jake Sullivan said, where he said that the spirit is of compromise?
I think there is a sense, particularly in the last 24 hours, at least from the Sherpas who are meeting in Manesar, the indication that's coming from both China and Russia seems to be that they are open to new language of the draft. Now, what that language may be, we don't know. That's not been shared with any of us. But the indication seems to be that both China and Russia may be open to some new formulation, particularly when it comes to the description of the war. Remember, that was the thing that really sort of split Russia and China from the rest of the G20 when it came to, numerous meetings that have happened, the finance ministers meeting that happened in Bengaluru, the foreign ministers who met here in Delhi earlier this year. It was really the language and the text of the war and the phraseology around the war which sort of split the group. But now we're given to understand that they may be open They may be open to new language, new formulation. We'll have to wait and see, because remember, just in Jakarta, just a couple of days ago, we had the ASEAN meeting, we had the East Asia Summit. There again, the reason why they couldn't come out with a joint communique was because of the text of the war. But we're given to understand that they may be amenable to new language. Sergei Lavrov and Jaishankar met on the sidelines of the East Asia Summit, so there is some hope from there as well. But clearly, I think all eyes, and you know, we have to be realistic here, all eyes will be on whether a joint communique is possible. And even if it is not, I think some of the other outcomes which will be outlined in the outcome document, which will be read out by the External Affairs Minister tomorrow in the second half, I think that will be significant.
Working lunch with the French president. We've just got the German chancellor touching down in Delhi, Zaka. So like you said, all heads of state or senior leaders, all nations represented. Russia, it's Sergei Lavrov, so that's the only exception. But he himself is perhaps the second most powerful voice in Russia today after President Putin. So they're all here and they will all be engaging on the sidelines. So along with the joint statement, it's also what these nations will achieve when they engage with each other under one roof. The PM himself having about 15 bilaterals. How important will be what Germany has to say, the voice of the European Union?
Oh, absolutely. It is the biggest economy in Europe. Together between France and Germany, they control much of what goes on in the European Union. And in fact, you know, the reason why this war has become so polarizing is because Germany and France and some of the leading countries in Europe have taken a very tough and very anti-Russia stand on it. The US, of course, has been, you know, pouring in billions and billions of dollars into Ukraine's war effort. But for Europe, I think this war has become almost existential in question. And that is why, both for France and for Germany, unless they temper down both their expectations of you know, how this war could play out, and more importantly, temper down their expectations in terms of how much Ukraine will be able to retrieve the territory that it's lost. At the end of the day, Russia is a formidable military force. Russia is holding on to at least 20% of Ukrainian territory as it were before this war began. And there doesn't seem to be any change in that in the foreseeable future. So Europe is absolutely important. Germany and France are critical to what Europe is thinking and how it's shaping the whole narrative around this war. And it could be critical in whether or not we get a joint statement at the end of 2 days here.